The wonderful thing about the Arboretum is just this, to me, it's just a hymn to this place. If you really pay attention, you walk through the Arboretum and you just see this wonderful array of native plants. And so the idea is connecting people with the beauty and diversity of the native flora of this region and encouraging them to bring that flora into their own lives, to enrich their lives with the beauty, but also to connect them to the place at which they live.
The ARB is important because it gives us a knowledge and a visible representation of who we are as a landscape here in northern Arizona, in the Colorado Plateau.
Places like this evoke a real sense of community. I think as Flagstaff grows and matures, I think more people will seek out places like this to help them understand where they are living.
What I find really special about the Arboretum at Flagstaff is that it's kind of like this oasis of biological diversity. Because we are really trying to feature native plants, and we have all kinds of different nooks and crannies, if you will, to be able to do that, that helps us in being able to bring that home to homeowners by showing them, like, if you have a really shady area, then you can plant these species. If you have a high, dry, windy area, you should really focus on these species.
People can come out here and go to select areas and say, this is what my backyard looks like. I guess I can try planting these things here. Grow what you can, grow what works here, and the answer is native plants.
I came here in '98, and I've been here ever since. 23 years at the Arboretum. It's kind of where I come out to relax and enjoy myself. It helps people in so many different ways. It's amazing all the things that you can get from being out in nature and in a garden.
Working with the Arboretum, between being on the board and being a docent and learning more about native plants and water use and fire, it just really solidified my commitment to being aware of how I was interacting with the environment. So this is inspirational to me.
So conservation work here at the Arboretum at Flagstaff is really kind of in 3 different areas. We do a lot of monitoring. The other piece that we really work a lot on is conservation of seeds. And then also surveying and looking at, well, how are the different populations that we've been studying, how are they actually doing? The other side, the community connection and education, really falls within our education programs department, and really trying to make what we do in a technical sense more digestible for people on an everyday sense. And so that comes with doing workshops and outreach at community events, and hosting classes and workshops here, and having that all-important interpretive signage so people can kind of self-teach. This place represents the community's biggest outdoor classroom for learners of all ages. One of the things that makes me happiest is when I'm sitting up in my office and I can look out and I see kids running all over the place and smelling the flowers and feeling the leaves and just getting in touch with nature.
It really is about living appropriately in a certain place.
Something very close to me is the Arboretum, and it goes beyond just serving our taste for flowers and trees. It is for the health of native plants and what they do to serve humanity.
So Frances McAllister was born Frances Burt McAllister, and she lived the first half of her life in Southern California. She was born to parents who had not graduated from high school, and she ended up almost completing a master's at Berkeley in philosophy. And while she was at school in UCLA, she met the man who would become her husband. And the first time he invited her home for dinner, she found out that he was very wealthy. So that was it was a romantic story. But it was a sad story too, because he died after they had only been married for 20 years, and she had to bring up her son as a single mother. Even though she was wealthy, she went through a lot of hard times as a single mom. When her son went off to college, she decided to make Flagstaff her forever home. She had the big stone house built, and she lived there alone for 15 years. And when she reached the age of 70, she realized it was time for her to transition in her life and live in town. And she wanted to donate this building, her garden, and the 200 acres surrounding it to become a botanical garden and a research center. So she created the Transition Zone Horticultural Institute, which we now call the Arboretum at Flagstaff.
There is probably no single person that has had as much influence on Flagstaff and Northern Arizona as Frances McAllister. And she did so on so many different levels. Education, she was a big advocate for pre-K. She also just loved the Museum of Northern Arizona. She loved science, the multiculturalism of our community, the Colorado Plateau. She was very involved in the arts and the sciences, and really, as both a human being with her time and her philanthropy, helped to really create a lot of the roots of the place we call home.
Frances was a Quaker, and the Quaker values are things like speak truth to power, and she had a strong sense of social justice.
I think Frances McAllister was one of these visionaries. She understood celebrating the beauty and diversity of regional places. She valued science and the role that science and the understanding of natural systems could play in benefiting our lives. She understood the concept of ecology and ecological health. She supported research in that. And she also saw the beauty of all of that.
And she was a very big believer in the need for forest restoration and forest management. And we're talking back in the 60s and the 70s. And it was the thinning and the forest management that she and others had worked on here that saved the Arb from extensive forest fire damage. She had a great connection to the land here. And she also had a great feeling of stewardship.
Frances really wanted to create a place to educate the community and the visitors about the Coconino Forest and the Colorado Plateau, and particularly with an interest on early childhood learning, to bring young people in and start them early with an environmental consciousness and a sensitivity to the natural surroundings.
I think Frances would rather be remembered as an advocate for children and for early childhood education. She was really focused on children, and she spent the last 10 years of her life, when she was in a wheelchair, she'd go to preschools and kindergartens and talk to the children there, and that's what she would like to be remembered for.
I try to do the best I can in the situation I find myself. My life is this, that I work in this office 4 days a week, and a good bit of it is work related to institutions that I feel are working to make life better for myself and others. I'm not trying to make more money, of which I have plenty. I'm trying to use the money that I have in ways that will release other people's energies to do the best that they can do. Help them to express the beauty that they can for the benefit of the most people.
You know, the Arboretum is 40 years old, and I wish I could live to see it be 100 years old or 200 years old. I'm sure it will evolve. It's come a long way in 40 years when she started it.
Regardless of what happens around it, this is a great island of what Flagstaff and the Colorado Plateau are, should be, and a great demonstration as we enter into climate change. So to protect this place, to protect that legacy, I think is what's really important. You know, you can't forget about Francis or the Arb or those historic threads of fabric that really created the place that so many people enjoy now.
Down the road is Francis's original cabin that she and John built. It got moved out here. We carried her ashes here, and they're spread right in front of her home. In a very real sense, Francis has never left the Arboretum. She's still very much here, very much looking over not only the last 40 years, but she is here also looking over the next 40 years here at the Arb. And I think that's her legacy.